make a menu for a ramen shop, the first thing I want is some art for my ramen. I can draw my own, or I could use some art I find on the internet. This one has a watermark, but that's okay when you're doing something for your school portfolio or even to show a client, because if the client approves it, you will pay for the stock image and get it without the watermark. So for a comp or a demo, watermark is fine. So we're going to just enlarge this so that it fills the menu space nicely and creates a good strong background. Now I'm going to use the rectangle tool to draw a rectangle over most of this. That's going to create the space that I'll put the menu in. I'll make this a little nicer by rounding the corners. I'll go over there to corner radius. I'm going to go with 40. That looks nice and friendly, and I don't like the gray. So let's go get the eyedropper tool from the color panel, and I'm going to pick a color from the actual noodles that are sticking out there at the top. That's not quite what I want, so I'll try again. A little bit lighter, a little bit warmer. That looks great. And then I'm going to make a gradient with it. Bottom part's too dark, too gray. So let's change that color as well. And I'm going to just do that in the color picker. So go up more towards a lighter tint of the original color. And then I'm going to change the transparency of the whole thing so that we can see the background. I can also change the transparency of each color. So I'm going to add a little bit more transparency on the bottom color to really let that bowl show up. And I want to put a border on this. That's called a stroke. So open stroke up, and I'm going to pick another color from the picture using the eyedropper. Slide over there and pick this little orangish color from the bowl. And then I want to make that a lot thicker. So under the weight, we're going to go with 10. Now I want to add some words. So let's switch to the text tool. Drag the text tool to create a box up at the top for the title, and type in the word ramen. I'm using the font called Baloo, kind of rounded, got a nice sort of noodly style to it. I need it a lot bigger, so let's raise the size up to 240. That's a little bit too big. So I'm going to try, I think, 200. And I want to change the A and the E and the N all to lowercase. Still a little bit too big, but don't worry, we're going to fix that up. We'll go down to 170. Then I'm going to make the text box a little bigger to get all the letters in there. And slide it up to where it belongs. And I want the A, the E, and the N to be the same size visually. So not the same point size, but the same size visually. So I have to select each of them and then increase their size. So it looks like 190 works well, but doesn't fit again. So we have to go back and adjust that. I'm going to actually use letter spacing to bring the letters closer together so that they do fit in the box. All right, slide that back up to the top. And now I'm going to work on the color. I don't like black. I want something warm, friendly, more like ramen broth maybe. We're going to come into the color picker and find a color that really is harmonious with everything else that's going on in my design. I'm going to get the text tool, draw another text box at the bottom, and this time I'm going to put the name of the restaurant and the address. I have that here, paste it right in. This is the same font that I used for the title at the top, and it's the same color. All right, slide that down a little bit so that it's closer to the bottom. I like to have equal space on the left and the bottom, same space as the R in ramen at the top too. So everything is nice and aligned. And now we're going to put in the actual food that the restaurant sells. So I just make a text box, type in some menu items. I'm just using return between each one to move them down. That means they're nice and uniformly spaced. And I can move them all together to position them where I want them on the background. Okay, I'm going to then switch to the ellipse tool and make a little circle next to Shoyu Ramen. I want to change the color of that from gray to something that's already in the page. So I'm going to get the eyedropper and pick a nice red out of the bowl. And then I'm going to go back to the text tool and type in the price. Okay, move that up so it's centered in the circle. We're going to change the color of that. So let's zoom in so we can see this better and pick the color. Use the eyedropper again. Actually, I'm going to pick one of the colors that's in the bottom. So these are the colors that are already being used in the image. This light yellow color, it looks really good against the red circle. Then all I need to do is type return, $, whatever the next price is, return, $, the next price, return, and $, for the last price for these 4 items. I do need to copy the red circle, so we're just going to do that by selecting it and using keystroke Alt or Option, drag it down, then Command or Control D to get the next 2. Zoom out to see the whole page, select the menu items and the prices, and Option Alt or drag to duplicate those. Then I'll select all the words and prices and type in the new information, but the colors, the fonts, and all that will stay the same. Now I want to add another image. I'm looking for an origami animal, so I went to Pixabay where the images are free. And I'm just going to scroll through here. I like that one. That's nice. It has a transparent background. That's perfect because I want to drop it on top of my menu art and I want to make sure we're not blocking anything out. So there it is. I'm going to shrink it down, hold the shift key to keep everything proportional. I'm going to flip it and then slide it over to the right-hand corner so it's kind of facing into the menu. I'm going to adjust the color of the origami piece to make it more harmonious with the rest of the menu design. So I'm going to tap on the image and then I have some controls here where I can use exposure to make it a little darker and then the temperature and tint to make it a little warmer. I want to add a little more detail to bring in some visual interest here. So I'm going to go to the star tool and I'll draw the star. I don't want a 5-point star. I can change that over under count. I'm going to switch to 4. I don't want it to be gray. So I'll go to the fill color and change it to white. I'm going to rotate it a little bit. And actually I want it to have kind of a shadow, but I'm not going to use drop shadow. I'm going to use another star. So I want this to be the star behind, which is going to be the same color as the word ramen. And then I'm going to Alt or Option drag to make a duplicate of it. And this one, I will change the color to white. Select both the stars and group them from the menu. Then I'll Option or Alt drag to make a duplicate of this group and move it down to the lower right-hand side. I'm going to rotate it the other direction a little bit. And then I'm going to Option or Alt drag again, place it kind of on the origami figure and make it a lot smaller. Remember to hold the Shift key to change size proportionally. I'm going to Option or Alt drag one more time, slide this small one up to the title and kind of place it on the edge of the N. Okay, look over the entire design, make sure you are satisfied with it, and I am. I think it looks pretty good. I'm going to move on and create another menu design, and this time I want to do it for a boba shop. So I'm going to start with a dot background, which I'm going to look for on Pixabay. Lots of dots here. Oh, I like these swirly dots. Let's see if I can find something good with those. This one looks perfect. Okay, so I'm going to take this, download it, and then copy it and paste it into my Figma page. Make it smaller. Remember to hold the shift key so that you're changing size proportionally. I'm going to rotate it because I want to use a different area of the dots. And then I'm going to slide it up sort of into the upper left-hand corner. I may rotate it and resize it a little bit more, change its position, and then when I'm happy with that one, I can Option or Alt drag to make a copy of it and then rotate the copy. I'm going to position this one more in the center, move it all the way over to the right-hand side and make it even bigger. Kind of fill in that space on the right-hand side. Option or Alt drag the first one, slide the copy down to the lower left corner, rotate, move, and change the size. Create a nice arrangement of dots as my background for the menu. Go get the text tool, create a text box up at the top. This is a boba menu, so type in boba. Oh, it doesn't quite fit. You can change the size of the text box and move it down to where it's supposed to be. I'm using a font called Cherry Bomb because it's nice and like round like boba. I don't want it to be black. Let's pick the fill color. I'm going to use this nice bright magenta, but it doesn't quite stand off the page enough, so we're going to do a little bit more here with our effects. So tap on Effect. I don't want to drop shadow right now. I actually want an inner shadow. The inner shadow color is really subtle, so let's fix that. So I'm going to open that up and choose a dark blue color that's like the dark blue dots on the background. I'm going to take off the offset so it's the same everywhere and increase the blur to 20. It gives it a nice soft blue edge inside the shape of the letters. Now I'm going to go to Effects, hit the plus, and add a drop shadow. Tap on the drop shadow settings, and I'm going to make the blur on this 20 also. Then I'm going to change the color of the drop shadow. Usually it's black, but I'm going to make it white because that's actually going to improve the contrast of the letters against the colorful background. Okay, get the text tool, and I'm going to draw a box in the lower right hand corner so that I can put the name of the boba shop and the address. So I'm just going to paste right in there, and oh, that's really hard to read. So I'm going to use the white drop shadow technique here, just like I did on the title. Go to Effect, pick drop shadow. I'm going to change it to white. I'm going to click on the droplet, which opens the blend mode, and then choose plus lighter, which is making the drop shadow even lighter. That gives even more contrast between the letters and the dots in the background, making it easier to read. At this boba restaurant, all the drinks are the same price, so I'm going to make one price, put this big circle here. Then I'm going to change the color to be just like it is in the letters for boba. So I'm going to use that magenta color, and then I'm going to get an effect. Choose the inner shadow and adjust the settings to be the same as I did on the letters for boba. So 0 for the offset, 20 for the blur, and then pick the color with the dark blue. I'm going to get the text tool and draw a box over the circle. And I'm going to type in $8. It needs to be a lot bigger. So we'll select it and change it to maybe 200 there. That's pretty big. Maybe a little bigger. 250. That looks good. And $sign seems a little big compared to the 8, so we can go in there and adjust just $sign by selecting it. And then in the typography area, we're going to click on these little settings over there and switch to details. Scroll down and pick the superscript. And now we have a nice little $sign. And then adjust the space between the 8 and the $sign so they feel more like they belong together. Maybe make it a little bit bigger to fill up that circle. And then I'm going to rotate it just to make it more dynamic. And now I'm going to put the names of the drinks. So I'll get the type tool again, draw a box, and type in the first drink, which is going to be jasmine tea. And then I'm going to pick the font. I'm going to use Dongle. And I'm going to adjust the color slightly by picking one of the colors I already have. And then I'm going to Option or Alt drag to make copies of Jasmine. So this time, instead of hitting return and putting all the names in one box, they're each in a different box because I want to be able to manipulate them independently of each other. So change the names up to whatever you want. And then I'm going to move vanilla away. It's the middle one, so I'm going to start with that one. That one's going to be flat or level. And then Thai tea, I'm going to rotate it slightly so that it kind of points from down on the left to up on the right. Do the same thing for matcha, rotate it a little bit more. And move it over slightly. You can use the arrow keys to move a little bit, or you can drag to move a lot. And then for taro, I'm going to rotate it even more so that everything below vanilla kind of radiates out. I'm going to do the same thing up above with brown sugar, milk tea, and jasmine. So brown sugar is going to rotate up on the left, down a little bit on the right. Milk tea is going to rotate further up on the left. And jasmine's going to rotate the most. So I'm making all the words fit around the circle that's defining the price. You can grab them all and adjust their position either with the arrow keys or by dragging it. Okay, I'm liking how this looks, so I'm just going to say it's done. I can't wait to see what you create. I know it's going to be amazing, authentic, and dynamic, and the most incredible menu design I've ever seen. I can't wait.